For the first time, we've taken the Twin Cities Real Estate Pros podcast on the road. We've left Lakeville and are high atop the IDS Tower here in downtown Minneapolis at the Bell Mortgage office. The reason why we were doing that is because our guest today is Dan Moore. He's a loan officer with Bell Mortgage. My name is Ron Johnson, licensed real estate agent with RE/MAX Advantage Plus, joined as always by David Nelson, also licensed RE/MAX Advantage Plus agent. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we've got going on, then we'll bring in Dan. We're going to talk about refinance with your mortgage and when it's a good time to do that and the different types of refinancing options there are. So we'll get to Dan in a second. Also, we're going to talk a little Gopher football, and we'll explain that a little later as well. So stick around for that. We'll talk about refinance. We'll talk about the housing industry locally and also some Gopher football. But David, let's start with some things you've got going on.
As mentioned in last week, I've got two upcoming listings. One is at 1176 177th Street in Lakeville, the Lakeville Golf Estates. Again, 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, coming in at $365. So if you want to get into that neighborhood at that price, it's ridiculous. Great price to get in there. And another one I have just south of the Twin Cities. It's at 564 Summit Avenue in Dundas. Homeowners have a big deck, in-ground sprinkler system. You have to go on the actual TwinCitiesRealEstatePros.com because I want you to look at the pictures of this property. Amazing. They've done renovations of their bathrooms, travertine tile. So, and it's not on NMLS yet, so the only way you're going to see that is by contacting us. But again, check it out on TwinCitiesRealEstatePros.com. And then I have a special request from our team member, Richard Zemlak.
We take requests.
We take requests.
Usually that's on the nighttime drive show, but we'll take requests.
Sometimes we slow down for the ladies.
We do.
Richard Zemlak, of course, the former NHL hockey player. He's got a fantastic listing that just got posted on Zillow today. 1829 Walnut Lane in Eagan, 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, just a shade under 2,200 square feet, coming in just below $290. The last couple years, new roof, new siding, new carpeting, new painting, new gutters, stainless steel appliances, birch floors, and absolutely stunning. Again, those will be on our podcast as well as TwinCitiesRealEstatePros.com.
All right, perfect. So a couple things I should mention, some housekeeping items. We are live on Facebook on 2 spots. We're on the Imperial Home Team page on Facebook.
As always.
We're also on my Facebook page right there. We are on YouTube. In a couple of days, we'll be on YouTube at ImperialHomeTeam.tv, and also our audio podcast is available on SoundCloud. You can hear all of those things and get all of those links on our website at TwinCitiesRealEstatePros.com. So
yes.
Anywhere you can find us, and we lied and didn't tell Dan that he was going to be live, so we'll talk to Dan again here in a little bit. But yeah, I've got a pre-listing coming up. I'm actually heading out of here to go to let the photographer in when we're done here, but that's at 6721 Foliage Court. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage townhome in Rosemont, right on the border of Rosemont, Lakeville, and Apple Valley. We're going to come on the market probably this weekend at $158,000, just depending on how we get some things cleaned up here in the next couple days to be able to go. And I want to talk about some other things that I've had going on in the past. I believe, if my math is correct, I've got 7 pending deals right now. So I'm not trying to do a self-brag, but just letting people know some of the things we've got going on. Next week, I've got a buyer closing on Friday, closing on their new home in Blaine. Okay. So I've got that coming up on Friday. The following Monday, I've got a couple of closings, a sale in South Minneapolis. I sold that listing in South Minneapolis, kind of by Matt's Bar, if you're familiar, or excuse me, the Cardinal Bar, if you're familiar with that area in South Minneapolis. Also a sale closing, a buyer sale closing on Kettering in Lakeville. Got that coming up, and then June I've got a couple in St. Louis Park, buyers closing, and a listing closing in Blaine. And then we just got a deal done in Eden Prairie for a sale, so a lot of things we've got going on. So when people say the spring market and the summer market is hot, it's really true.
It is, and it's actually kind of funny. The last 3 properties I've listed, actually I hit the MLS, the brochures came after the offers came. Yeah. So they actually received an offer, accepted it before the brochures could come, because it takes a couple days for the brochures to come after the photos. And so here's some useless brochures because your property already sold. We had another one on...
Get a refund on the market?
I wish.
Might be able to.
And then also one on Kettering, which is just not too far from the one that you guys are buying. Sold that before it even hit the market.
Yeah.
And again, can't tell you terms. Great terms. And then they went and bought a house immediately right after that. So it's just bing, bang, boom. So again, if you're not ready to pull the trigger, and that's kind of where the lending process comes in, you really need to be on track of what's going on.
Right, that's a good segue into Dan Moore. He is with Bell Mortgage. We are in his office here in the IDS Tower, and to get some compliance out of the way, your NMLS number is 400902. So now we're legal,
Correct.
and we'll also have that up as well once we go to YouTube. So why don't you grab your mic there, Dan?
Oh, sure.
And let's bring you in. So we're going to talk about refinance and when's a good time to refinance and different things like that. But let's kind of keep playing off what's happening in the market. So from your perspective, what are you seeing with your borrowers?
Yeah. First off, thanks for having me join you guys. Live would have been nice to know, but
That's all right.
But you didn't bring
But
the
no,
sun.
yeah.
You
I
requested
did bring the
sun.
sun. I
Even if
apologize.
we're recording, but we're not stopping anyway, so it's just as good as live.
I don't know if the view probably doesn't come in quite as well as it should. But
Yeah.
anyways, no, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Ron and Dave, and thanks for coming downtown to join me here. But yeah, no, just to piggyback on what you guys have already said, I mean, the market is crazy. On the lending side, we see it at a little bit different angle, but we can just tell it's extremely competitive, multiple offers, homes selling for over list price, and it's exciting. I'm sure it's exciting for you guys. It's exciting for us too. I think the main thing on our end, Bell Mortgage is very purchase focused. We're going to talk about refis today, but we're very purchase focused. Working intimately with the realtors and the buyers, but just having that financing in line, I think on the front end is just so important, especially now in this market where it is so competitive. Just being able to move quickly on properties and having the communication back with the loan officer, I think, is very important because we can do some things that might give the buyer a competitive advantage when you go into a multiple offer situation. So making sure your buyers are communicating well back to us is can be very helpful for the entire process. Make sure they get that home. But no, again, thanks for having me. I know we're going to talk about refinance a little bit today, but were there any questions?
Yeah, there are some questions. That's my job. That's why I get paid the big bucks.
Yep,
to host
yeah.
this
Good
podcast for free.
segue for
Yeah,
Ron.
but no. So right now on the buyer side, we're seeing that rates are so low. So that's going to be a big part of why someone may want to refinance who's in their home.
Correct.
So just kind of from a high level, when would you say, when you sit down with somebody who's like, hey, you know what, I saw that rates are really low. Is it a good time for me to refinance? How do you start that conversation with somebody considering refinancing their home?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways or reasons why someone would want to refinance their home. Certainly the most common one is to lower your rate and lower your payment. Help free up some cash on a monthly basis that people can use for a variety of reasons. But now with rates so low, it is coming into play where people are they want to refinance to get lowest rate possible. There's really no magic number per se to look at. A lot of that depends on how long they've been in the home, how long they've paid down that mortgage, and what that monthly savings looks like. But generally speaking, if you can lower that rate a half a point, assuming the term is the same, it's probably going to be worth refinancing, regardless of how much you've paid off on that principal balance. So it's a great time for homeowners to look at it. Some other reasons why you may want to look at it. Can I back up just a little bit?
You can do whatever.
I know we're live.
We're in your office.
Yeah, you're running the
So
show.
That's right.
there's
We'll step out.
I think most people are aware. There's really two main types of refinance. There's the rate term refinance, which is simply just paying off your current mortgage balance and not tapping into the equity that you may have in your home. That's just a rate term refinance. The other refinance is a cash out refinance where you are going to tap into some of that equity. You're going to pull it out for a variety of reasons. So, if we just look at the rate term refinance, some of the reasons why someone might do that, we've already talked about lowering the rate, lowering the payment. That's huge. People have a lot of stuff going on. Maybe they need that extra savings for a variety of reasons like we talked about. But the other thing is changing the loan type. FHA was a very, very popular loan, in the not too distant past. Still a popular loan type, but But getting out maybe of an FHA loan with the home values coming up, they've got the equity there to maybe look at going into a conventional loan, get rid of the mortgage insurance, that sort of thing. So changing the loan type is a very popular reason. Changing the loan term is coming into play a lot now with people that are in a 30-year fixed, and maybe they want to drop down to a 20 or a 15-year term. So changing that loan term, pay off more principal, whether they live in that home forever or they sell it in 10 years. Generally speaking, they're going to save thousands and thousands of dollars in interest. So changing the loan term is another reason. And that's just on the rate term. That's just paying off your, what you owe. You can also roll in some fees, assuming that the value of the home, appraises high enough, that sort of thing. So it's a good option for folks to consider right now. Cash out refinance, on the other side, is a refinance that we're seeing a lot of with home values coming back. Because people have equity in their home now that they can tap into for a variety of reasons. Some of those reasons are home improvements. People are, maybe they're, renovating their home. They've decided not to sell. I don't know why they wouldn't. It seems like if you list your home, it's gone before you even get the marketing brochures.
And then sometimes too, they may want to get the equity out to do some repairs to sell their home maybe next year or the following year.
Yes.
At the same time.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, Dave. Yep. Absolutely.
Good job. Yes. You can go now.
Yeah.
You've done your job.
I hit my quota. Good term. Good
out.
point. Awesome.
Yeah, home repairs, consolidate debt. Maybe some folks have some student loans that are still hanging out there, or a variety of different revolving debt. Whatever it may look like. Debt consolidation is always a popular reason. But the other thing right now too that we're seeing a lot of is folks pulling out equity to buy other properties. Mm-hmm. Whether it's an investment property that they want to purchase, or second home, vacation home, whatever it may be.
Help the kids with a down payment, something like that.
Help the kids, yeah, no, absolutely,
Yep.
yeah. So that's a very popular reason to tap into that equity right now too. Looking at my notes here.
That's all right. From a consultation standpoint, we don't want to get too deep as real estate agents into the mortgage process, but I think it's important to help your buyers understand sometimes, particularly like with an FHA, it helps you don't have the down payment, maybe you've got some credit issues, and people see that private mortgage insurance and get scared away by that. But I think as we do our jobs, we can explain to the buyer, hey, if this is the house you want, this is what you can afford, and this is what your budget is like. You're not locked into this loan forever.
Yeah.
Get to a point where maybe you can get up to the conventional, and then you can buy your house that you want now, but don't have to be stuck with the necessarily with the mortgage product that you're in.
And sometimes too, it's not even they have the funds maybe, but it's their credit score. It could be not good enough to get to that conventional spot, but they know they're going to get there.
Absolutely.
Get into a house now when you actually the rates are low and you can get a decent house.
Yep.
But then we talk to Dan in a year or so, 2 years, and then say, all right, credit scores are up, or our job, we can prove that we've been in a job now for 2 years, or they have better financially position, get a better loan, and get a conventional possibly.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's very common where maybe someone got into some trouble with with a credit issue, maybe coming through college, credit cards, whatever it may be, but now they're a lot more stable. The credit card or their credit scores gone through the roof, and they're eligible for a much better interest rate on the loan. So
yeah, the lesson there is, even though that free T-shirt that you're going to get might look really cool right now, if you want to buy a house in 5 years, maybe pass on the free T-shirt.
Exactly.
I'm going to the Twins game tonight. Even there, you walk around, they have these little kiosks.
Yeah.
If you sign up here, you get a Twins hat. Don't get it wet because it's going to disintegrate.
Right.
But you're like, I'll sign up for a credit card to get your free hat. We're just suckers for freebies.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it never ends.
Then you can't buy a house. So that's
human nature.
Trade-off.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's there's a lot of different ways or a lot of different reasons to look at a refinance. Another common one that I'll just throw out there, because even though it's it's not a positive situation necessarily, but divorce is a very common situation where a mortgage needs to be refinanced, and maybe it needs to be refinanced to remove one of the borrowers. Or maybe you need to look at a cash out refinance because, as the divorce proceedings, play out, that equity needs to be shared both ways. So
that's an excellent point, because we're seeing a lot more of that. The divorce is happening, and the state of Minnesota, some people don't realize it's 1 to buy, 2 to sell. So even if you bought your house by yourself before you got married, you get married, you get divorced, still has to have the other person to sign off on the house too.
Yep.
So you can refinance it if you don't want to sell it, and but we're seeing a lot more of the divorces and trying to figure things out that they can get to one side off the mortgage and proceed.
Yep. And if that equity is there, then that departing spouse maybe gets a portion of that equity and they use it for a down payment on their new home. With you guys. So that's a very common refinance that we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah. So somebody's just kind of considering refinancing their home. Obviously, just give you a call, and it's probably at the front end probably a fairly simple process, right? You just get their basic credit information and how much do you owe on your house and what are your goals with the refinance, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. Yeah, it's very simple on the front end. Like you said, just trying to figure out how much their home is worth. What their goals are. Most people have a pretty good idea of what their credit score is, especially these days. There's a lot of different ways to check that FICO score. What a lot of people don't realize, though, is there are 3 credit bureaus, so they may only know 1 or 2 of those scores and not the third one, and we use the middle score. So it's, even if someone knows their score and they feel like it's either really high or really low, that may not always be the case. So it's always good to check with us, and if we have to run credit, we run credit. It's not that big of a deal. But the process is pretty simple. Just to get out some preliminary numbers to see if it makes sense, before we really get down the road and collect all the documents. And
because I know, like Credit Karma, I think they only pulled 2. I think
only pull 2.
Yeah, so it's good to know that there's 3 out there. So you can go to Credit Karma, and I think it's Experian and. I can't think of the other one.
Let me grab my phone. I'll tell you.
Yeah, hey.
Is it TransUnion, or am I making that up?
I think
that's right.
Yeah, so they pull 2, but it's good to know there's a third one that you have to be aware of.
Yep, exactly. So, trying to think, what other things I could say about a lot of people don't realize this too. When you're refinancing your primary residence, there is a 3-day rescission period. So if someone's looking at a cash-out refinance and they're using that cash maybe for a down payment on a new home, there is a 3-day rescission period, so you got to coordinate those closings accordingly. By law, they can back out of that refinance if they so choose. So that's always something to keep in mind too.
Which is really good, because you can get really enticed, especially with a cash out, and you're like, okay, you know what, I need to put up a fence and do all this, but I also want to go to Mexico. And then you do all that stuff and you get refinanced, and somebody comes to your house with a check for $30,000 and hands it over to you, and then maybe you talk to somebody else who maybe has it a little more together, and they're like, hey, that's a really bad idea. So you're saying, once you sign the papers, unlike buying a house, then you can get out.
You can still get out. Get out. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And so homeowners are protected in that regard.
Perfect.
To a certain degree there, but it's very rare. It's very rare because usually we've communicated, and there's been so much knowledge, about the process that has been shared and gained, and people have a pretty good understanding of what they're getting into, but this is the option.
Okay. So. And we'll have your contact information on the YouTube version, but if somebody needs to get a hold of you to talk about whether it's refinance or purchase or just has some mortgage questions, what's the best way that someone can reach you?
My office phone is 952-905-5477. I've always got my cell phone on me, 612-214-8458. My email is dmore@bellbanks.com, plural on the banks. And then my website is danielmoore.net.
All right, perfect. We'll have your information on our website as well, TwinCitiesRealEstatePros.com. Now we're going to talk about, we're going to stop talking about refinance, if that's okay with you, and we're just talk about you.
That's right.
Yeah. So before, you've been in the mortgage business for roughly how long?
Almost 10 years.
Okay, so you've been about 10 years, and then prior to that, I know you were running your own company for a while, but even before that, you were playing football at the University of Minnesota, right? Graduated high school from Macquarie.
High School,
in Cold Spring, and then 93 grad?
Class 93.
Okay,
right.
And then went to play football for Jim Wacker.
That's correct. Yeah.
Take us back to that experience. You're in high school, and I'd look this up and tell me if this is not true, but were you the first player from Macquarie to go scholarship to the University of Minnesota for football?
That could be correct.
Okay.
Yeah. That very
According to
well
my
may-
research, it
you
is
know,
correct. So we're going to go.
Don't be so coy. Well, I'm
No.
not sure. It's like he pulls out a plaque. Well, actually, the bronze statue is.
Yeah, as far as I know, I think that is accurate.
It's true.
But Ricori, I mean,
It's on the internet. It's
yeah.
true.
Ricori's had so many great athletes
Yeah.
that I don't even, there's so many other guys that could have done what I did, and for whatever reason they chose to stay local or take the scholarship right out of high school at a smaller school. I did walk on at the University of Minnesota, and I ended up earning a scholarship. My last year there, so it was a great experience. But yeah. What do you want to know about that?
Well, I want to know everything.
No, yeah.
So, well, how about that decision? Because I'm assuming if you're able to walk on at a Big Ten school, you can go play somewhere else, whether it's Division II or you probably could have gone to St. John. A lot of people make that decision, right? Either I'm going to you or I'm going to St. John's.
Yeah.
But you could have probably played at St. Cloud or a number of other places. So
Yeah, definitely.
Was it I want to play Division I, so I'm going to try this?
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of that mindset. And I was injured part of my senior year of high school, so I almost felt like I didn't really fulfill my potential there as a football player. So I wanted to test myself at the highest level. And I did have some offers to play at a smaller Division II schools. But, at the same time, you got to be thinking post-football playing days as well. And I knew that the university, created so many opportunities and resources, and it was such a great university that, I wanted that aspect of college and my education as well. So, I chose to walk on, and it was a great experience. There were a number of walk-ons that came in, and they did leave, and they went and they played at a lower level of competition, and had great success. And I just chose to stick it out, really. So. Ended up playing a lot of special teams. I think I took one official snap, like on the field, 11-on-11 defense. I walked on as a quarterback. Ended up playing outside linebacker. I was a little bit bigger then than I am now. But
People were smaller then.
Yeah. Way back then. Yeah.
Back then.
that's true too. No, you're right about that. But that was a great experience. Played for Jim Wacker, incredible man. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years back. And Glenn Mason came in my last year. I had an opportunity to play for Glenn Mason. That was a great experience. I look back on those years fondly. Met my wife at the university. She played golf, and the rest is history, I guess.
That brings us to the present. So I'm curious, as far, and it's a generic question, but anything from your days of competition and at being an athlete at that high of a level go into your mortgage business and how you approach situations or approach people?
Well, I think there's always a lot of different things that you can take away from, being involved in athletics and competing and being on a team and having a role and just, being able to be the best, player you can be the best employee you can be, fitting into a team environment. And maybe you're not the superstar, because I certainly wasn't, there, but I knew that I had an important role to play, so I did the very best I could, every single time. And I think, it carries over a lot in business where, you want to be the best employee that you can be, and you want to do everything you can to help someone. And I probably take that away more than anything. I don't claim to be the superstar mortgage loan officer, nor was I the superstar player, but you try to be the very best you can be. So,
Wow.
Just kind of the experience that you've had as a student athlete, how much do you lean on just some of those relationships in your business building, and how much does that, because you mentioned after your football, you were thinking as an 18-year-old, okay, I'm probably not going to go to the NFL, I've got to do something else. So at that time you're building relationships, which I'm sure have helped you since then.
Yeah, they have, and I think, you always look back and you think that maybe there's more that you probably could have done, and there's different relationships that you could have pursued, and I think about that all the time. But I think the university provides those opportunities. I think you have to go get them. I think you have to be pretty assertive, at least at that time. Now, when I look at how the university is operating over there, especially in the athletic department, I think there's more opportunity to create relationships off the playing field in the business world than there was even when I played, which is a great thing. I know there's a lot of people over there that are really engaging the student athletes and the alumni that are in the business world, bringing them together, and I think that's creating a lot of great opportunity. I wish something like that would have existed when I played. But certainly there's relationships even today that I established back then that that are fantastic. Both on a personal level and a professional level.
How close are you now to the football team? How much do you pay attention? Obviously, you have kids and a family and a business and things like that, but are you able to stay involved much?
I do. I stay involved. My wife and I have had season tickets for a long, long time. We make it to most of the games. We're Gopher fans. We're not, not ashamed to admit that. But no, we're definitely involved in the football program. It's I think it's in as good of shape that it's been in years. Jerry Kill really turned things around there after Brewster left, and I think Clay's has just kind of upheld that momentum, and hopefully he can build upon it, and they can see even more success. So we'll see what happens.
And do you pay? I don't want to get you in trouble. Are you paying much attention to the athletic director situation, or are you just kind of
a little bit? A little bit. My father-in-law is very involved in it.
Okay.
So dramatic pause.
So he keeps me informed as to what's going on. But no, it's going to be an interesting hire. I hope they take their time and they find the right person to take on that role. It's not an easy job. I think it's a very, very challenging job, and in light of what's happened there in the last couple of years, I think it's even become a more challenging job. So hopefully there's a great candidate that wants to take on that challenge, and we can get it turned around. I mean, it's a Big Ten university. I mean, the opportunity is fantastic, and there's so many good people over there that I think they'll find a good person.
It's a beautiful stadium too. I mean, you can't go wrong there.
The stadium's great. The new facilities that they're breaking ground on are going to be fantastic, and really put us on a level playing field with some of the other universities, Big Ten universities, other Power 5 conference schools that recruiting is really everything. So hopefully we get it figured out. But.
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point, too, about the opportunities afforded to you if you go to the University of Minnesota. In a former life, I was a sportscaster, and I did an interview with Pat Fitzgerald, the head coach at Northwestern.
Yeah.
And he said, look, I'm not going to get the best. Oh, yeah. As a player, I'm sure, yeah, there was neck roll and everything, right?
Yeah.
So, that would make sense, the timing of that. But he had said, we're not going to get the best football players to come to Northwestern, but we need to get people that are really smart who love to play football. Yeah. And he said, I just look in my backyard, and I've got Chicago back there. So if you're not going to the NFL, you can come here, play football in the Big Ten, and go get a job in Chicago. Minneapolis is not Chicago, but offers that same thing.
Yeah.
So isn't that a really important part of recruiting? You can get kids to come from around the country to play football here, but then also say, once you leave here, we've got this big, huge business opportunity here with all these big businesses in downtown Minneapolis and downtown St. Paul to allow them to have something to do after they get done playing?
Oh, I agree. Yeah, 100%, Ron. And, I think I think Jerry Kill really tapped into that side of the recruiting more so than any coach in recent history. And I can't say that, with definitive proof, but but he did stress it quite a bit, and it's so true. I mean, the Fortune 500 companies here, the opportunity for job opportunities post graduation are just phenomenal, and the quality of life in the Twin Cities. I mean, it's so it's so high, and I think once you get some of these recruits from other parts of the country to just come and visit, they can kind of see a difference, in the quality of life, the opportunity, and I think I think it is paying dividends to focus on that aspect, because we're not the the only show in town. Obviously, the professional sports are, take precedent a lot of times over the university sports. So it's, there's, the enticement for someone to come here isn't going to be the glitz and glamour of,
It's not Madison
we're
and
winning
Iowa City
national
for the parties,
championships.
but you can get a job after you've done college. Right?
Yeah, which hopefully kids feel is important part of it. Right?
Well, a lot of people, there's just that stigma of Minnesota. They think it snows. They think we're in the Yukon. And like, no, it's actually really pretty here.
Yeah. Look outside. I mean, it's gorgeous,
It's a
right?
beautiful day here at the 30th floor of the IDS.
Yeah.
But we've got to head out. We've talked about a lot of things here, but we appreciate you joining us, Dan.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
and again, Dan Moore, he's with Bell Mortgage out of the downtown Minneapolis office here at IDS. His NMLS number is 400902, and we'll have his contact information on our website, TwinCitiesRealEstatePros.com. That's David Nelson. He is the leader of the Imperial Home Team at RE/MAX Advantage Plus. My name is Ron Johnson. I'm also a licensed real estate agent with RE/MAX Advantage Plus. We appreciate you joining us for the Twin Cities Real Estate Pros podcast. We'll catch you next time.